Hello everyone, my name is Pietro Veloso, and today on the job, I'm here with Keith Macpherson, who is a Canadian mindfulness coach, speaker, and best-selling author with over 20 years of experience helping people find balance and inner peace. Today on the job, we are here to learn more about him. He is certified in multiple coaching disciplines. He blends personal growth with relationship dynamics to inspire transformation. He is the author of Making Sense of Mindfulness and founder of the Way Through app, offering guided meditations and tools to navigate life's challenges. In 2023, Keith was awarded the Queen Elizabeth Jubilee Medal for his impact on mindfulness and community well-being. He has toured internationally, speaking and performing in Canada, the United States, Mexico, Africa, Dubai, and the United Kingdom. An international speaker and accomplished musician, Keith believes mindfulness and music are universal languages that connect people and create a more compassionate and balanced world. So thank you, Keith, for being here on the show, or on the job with us.
I am totally honored to be on the job with you. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you so much. So I do have a few questions for you.
Okay.
If that's okay with you.
Let's roll.
Okay. So let's talk about your journey getting started and all the different things that you do, because you have an app, you have won an award, you have done so many things that people don't even dream of. So let's talk about it.
Okay,
right?
absolutely.
Okay. So first question, when you were younger, did you ever picture yourself working in mindfulness or even being a musician?
I absolutely didn't. But this all started for me in the 7th grade. I was failing French class in grade 7. I don't know if you can relate to this because you seem like you're a pretty smart student. But when it came to French, I was failing miserably. So I went to my teacher one day at the end of the school day, and I said, is there anything I could do to get my grade up in French? And my teacher was so kind. She said, go home, do a project in French. I'll try to get your grade up to passing levels. So I went home that night, and my mom had this guitar laying around at the house that nobody was playing. And so I picked it up that night, and I learned a few guitar chords. And I realized that I could play an old Bob Dylan song.
Ooh.
And then it came to me, I could translate this song into French. So now this is going to date me, but back in the day, we used to have cassette tapes where
Yes.
you'd record.
Yeah.
So I started recording this song, Blowing in the Wind, a Bob Dylan song in French, Souffle dans le vent. And the accent wasn't there. But I recorded the tape, handed it in. I got an A+ on the project.
Look at that.
It got my mark up in French to a D-. And I passed French, and my teacher came back to me and said, do you want to sing this song at the next school assembly in front of the school? And I was like, absolutely not. That was the last thing I wanted to do in grade 7. My voice was cracking. I had a awkward crush on Stephanie Johnson. I was like, this is going to be really weird. But I got up in front of the school anyway. I don't know what made me say yes eventually, but I got up in front of the school and I started playing my song Souffle dans le vent, and my worst nightmare came true. Pietro, I looked out and all my friends in the back row were laughing at me. And then before too long, as I'm trying to sing, the whole school started going crazy. And in that moment, I had this voice in my head that was like, run for the hills. But I also had this other little whisper voice that said, play the Fred Penner song, The Cat Came Back. There's this kid's song called The Cat Came Back. And I started playing it just on a whim. And all of a sudden, the school went from chaos to all the students started singing along with me.
Oh my gosh.
And it was in that moment that I made the decision. I'm like, I want to do this for the rest of my life. I want to be a musician.
That is so sweet.
So that's how it all started for me.
That's so sweet.
The mindfulness part, though, came way later on. Although I didn't realize it, back in grade 7 at the time, I actually was practicing mindfulness without even knowing it by listening to the voice, that little whisper that said, play this song instead of this one. I think mindfulness is all about learning how to listen in the present moment and really trusting your gut feelings and honoring what's needed. So that's how it all got started.
I think that's a lesson we actually all need to learn, trusting your gut. There's been a lot of times where I didn't trust it and then it went wrong.
Absolutely.
So I definitely agree with that.
And when it comes to choosing what you're going to do for a career, it's I think learning how to listen internally to that gut feeling, or learning how to kind of listen to the whispers, I call them, of the heart center, as opposed to listening to what everybody thinks you should do.
Yes.
Is really, really a great practice.
Yes, I think nowadays we all think about how much money am I going to earn? How can I be what my parents want me to be, or what my friends expect me to be? And nowadays some jobs, even being a musician, is looked down upon because you don't always make it, right?
Totally.
So listening to your gut I think is very important.
Absolutely.
And it's good that you listened and it got you to a good place, right?
Yes,
I bet
absolutely.
now they're not laughing anymore.
Well, yeah, and if they do, sometimes that happens where you take a risk and you try something and it doesn't work out the way you thought, or somebody laughs at you or gives you criticism. But what I've come to find is that in those moments, going back again to listening to the gut, trusting myself, as opposed to that loud voice that comes up for me in my head. I call it the saboteur voice. We all have one.
Yeah.
It's been said we all have what's called a saboteur. And the saboteur is this part of us that tries to keep us small and play it safe and don't take the risks, right? It's trying to protect.
Fear, right?
Very much so.
Yeah.
But I've learned to kind of call that out when I notice it there and do whatever it is anyways that's on my heart or in my gut.
We all need to learn that. Thank you, Keith.
Absolutely. You're welcome.
Yeah. Okay. So next question is, what was your very first job, and did it help you prepare for what you do now? Because you did talk about you started more as a musician than going into mindfulness.
Well, my very, very first job where I got my first paycheck was I was working at the front desk at my high school, answering phone calls when the secretary went home at the end of the day.
Okay. That's a sweet way to make some money, right?
It was awesome. I think I made like $30 a week.
Whoa.
It was huge. It was amazing. Yeah, back in the day. So I don't know if it completely related to what I'm doing now. Maybe it helped me with like personal skills, like learning how to answer the phone and speak with people.
Customer service maybe.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think all jobs kind of help a little bit, whether you think about it or not, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So was there a time or a moment in your early life where you realized mindfulness could actually be a career? You said this about listening to the voice, but was there a specific moment and not just a hobby?
Wow. Well, I think for me, mindfulness kind of came up very unexpectedly. I was on the road touring as a musician. I was in a band called Keith and Renee for many years. And we were traveling all over North America primarily. And it was getting really challenging. We'd been in a band, we'd been playing for like 15 years together as musicians. And it was right around the time when the music industry was changing. People used to buy CDs back in the day.
I still do.
Do you really?
Yes, I have a whole collection.
That's so inspiring. Thank you.
Vinyls too.
Thank you for supporting musicians.
Of course.
And vinyls too, exactly.
Vinyls too.
Well, we were selling CDs, but the music industry was changing around that time, and everything was going digital, and we were really struggling to figure out how are we going to keep making this our career and making a living out of this. And I was kind of discouraged, and I was on tour. I remember this clearly. I was on tour on the east coast of the US. We were driving down from Boston to New York for a show. And I called my mom and I said, look, Mom, like this is going so bad. Like barely people are coming to our shows. We're not selling CDs anymore. It's so hard. This is such a grind. And she told me about this author named Wayne Dyer. She said, you need to listen to this man named Wayne Dyer. So I found one of his CDs, and on tour, I started listening to it in our rental car. And Wayne Dyer started talking about the power of intention, and you become what you think about, and where is your attention going? And the rest of that tour, after I listened to that CD, everything changed. I went from feeling super negative and discouraged about the music industry to feeling once again really optimistic. And I knew there was something about that. That was my first entryway without really knowing it into mindfulness. So I came back to Winnipeg where I live. And at the end of that tour, I started practicing yoga. Wayne had talked about how he does yoga, and I thought, wow, that sounds kind of cool. So I signed up for a yoga class, and one thing led to the next, and I was so inspired by taking yoga classes that I decided, you know what, I'm gonna start teaching yoga. It got to the point where it was like, you know what, I'd like to teach it to keep learning about yoga. So I was teaching yoga, and at the end of one of my classes, I had this student come up to me, and they said, you're a yoga teacher. I'm wondering if you'd be interested in coming to teach a class to a bunch of teachers on mindfulness. And me being a yes person, are you a yes person?
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
You got to know when to say no, right?
I agree, and I'm learning that the hard way. I'm a recovering yes person where I tend to say yes to like every opportunity.
But that was a good opportunity at least.
Well, it happened to be a pretty good one. So I said, of course I'll teach yoga and mindfulness to this group of teachers. So I ended up at this like professional development day with a group of teachers, and I didn't know a lot about mindfulness at the time. This was like several years ago when mindfulness really wasn't as popular as it is now. And so, as a good teacher does, if you don't know the topic, you rely on the knowledge of your students. So I just looked around the room and I asked people, what does mindfulness mean to you? And somebody said, mindfulness, isn't that practice where you sit on a meditation cushion and do nothing. Like, why would I ever do that? I don't have time to do that. So I was like, okay. Somebody else said, mindfulness, we do that with our students in the classroom, in the grade 1 classroom. Everybody gets a raisin and they look at the raisin, the students look at the raisin, they smell it, they might talk to it. I was like, what is this? What are they talking about? Finally, they eat it. I'm like, what is this about? Mindfulness, really? Somebody else said, mindfulness, I do that every day. I check it off my to-do list and I go on with my day. I left that session so confused, Pietro. I didn't even know, like, what is mindfulness? So it set me out on the
Everyone
journey.
had a different, like, translation of it. Everyone didn't know what it meant, I guess.
Absolutely. So I was like, I don't know what it means. So that set me out on the quest to figure out
what that mindfulness actually is.
What it's all about.
Yeah, and did you find it? I would hope so.
I have to say, I didn't realize it at that time. But mindfulness has become one of the most important practices for me. It's a foundational practice to navigate all of the chaos, the complexity, the stress, the anxiety that we're under, that I'm under, that we're all under these days. I've come to find one of the best ways I heard mindfulness defined was by an author named Susan Kaiser Greenland. She's a children's author, so I love her because you actually can understand what it means.
Yeah.
I love kids' books for that. She said, mindfulness is paying attention in the present moment with kindness to yourself, other people, and the world around you. I'm going to say it again, and I'll just slow it down. Mindfulness is paying attention in the present moment with kindness to yourself, other people, and the world around you.
I feel like we are really stressed about the future, and then we think about the past. I guess we forget to really enjoy the present, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're always thinking about what's next. Like this whole summer, I've been thinking about going back to school and then like studying all the pressure I'm going to be under with like changing schools. And I think that's a really good quote. I think that's something we all really need to focus on.
Absolutely. I think this is a crucial practice these days. So many of us are thinking about the future and finding ourselves worrying about what's going to happen. Or sometimes some of us think about the past of what's already happened that we can't change anymore. And not that it's a bad thing to think about the future. I mean, especially when we talk about career, you've got to think about, what do I want to create and what do I want to design in my life? But where we get in trouble is when our mind starts wandering off into stories about the future that are filled with anxiety and fear and doubt. How do we bring ourselves back into this present moment? Because when you're really here in this present moment, like if you're really here with me right now, you'll notice that in this present moment, there's no fear. There's no fear. We're totally safe right now in the present moment. And when we learn how to bring ourselves into this moment, in our mind, our body, our spirit, when we're really here, we then start learning how to listen more attentively to what's going on in our mind and our body and our spirit. And I think it's a really, really crucial way to navigate in the world.
Do you have any advice that like we could live in the present moment? Anything we can do to maybe try and block out the thoughts about the future and about stress?
Well, one of the most effective ways that I've found is something called anchoring. And in mindfulness, this is a very common practice. If you think about an anchor for a boat, right? If you had a boat in the ocean, the boat is going to start wandering around unless you drop an anchor. It keeps the boat relatively stable in one place. And it's the same thing with our mind, right? When our mind starts wandering out of control, especially into those worrying thoughts about the future, how do we anchor ourselves back into the present moment? So there's many ways to anchor ourselves back. One of the ways I find very effective, and it's quite cliche to say when it comes to mindfulness, is to bring our awareness back to our breath, because our breathing is happening in the present moment. Like when you take a deep breath in, you're arriving here. And when you exhale, you're arriving here. And to just watch and focus your attention on your breath for a few moments really can center you back into the reality of right here now. Now, some people might be watching this going, I don't have time to do that. I'm so busy. I don't have time to slow down and breathe. But there's many other ways you can anchor. In conversations, like even the one we're having right now, when your mind starts wanting to wander off into other thoughts, can you come back and be right here with the person? How often is it we're talking to somebody and we're trying to tell them something and their mind has like drifted off. They're not even with us.
They're not even paying attention, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
So this has become an anchoring practice for me, is like when my mind wants to wander, can I come back to the person that I'm with and just practice being with them? Another one that I think many of us do is when we're brushing our teeth at night. Now, I don't know about you, but I have this habit where I'm brushing my teeth at night and I'm wandering around the house, and I'm like, for me, I'm like running the dishwasher, and I'm like changing the laundry, and I might be like texting or talking on the phone. I'm trying to do a million things at once. Can I just brush my teeth
without doing something else?
Without doing all the other things. That's an anchoring practice.
That's a really good one.
Yeah.
I mean, I have an electric toothbrush, so I think it's a little bit harder to like go into it because it's kind of heavy.
Yeah.
But I do sometimes find myself trying to wander out, trying to pick up some clothes for the next day. So I'm going to try that tonight.
Absolutely. One more I would say too, when we're eating, this has become so challenging is because we're in this on-the-go type of world these days. Like we got to get somewhere all the time. There's always something else to do. When we stop and just taste a few bites of our food, this is an anchoring practice as opposed to like checking your phone or like being distracted by a television. Can you just taste your food and slow down a little bit? I mean, just integrating these kind of things into your day helps you become more present to what's actually going on. And so then when your mind does start wandering off, you can bring it back and regulate it into, okay, just this moment, I'm going to be okay.
That's a good practice that like everyone can do.
Yeah, absolutely.
I find myself watching TV or watching my iPad while I eat my food.
Me too. And this isn't about feeling guilty for doing that. I mean, there's a time and place. I just think being aware of how am I being while I'm doing whatever I'm doing. So if I'm choosing to watch my iPad while I'm eating, I mean, that's a choice and I'm conscious of it, but I'm just kind of mindlessly doing it without thinking about it. All of a sudden, I start finding myself moving into patterns of stress and anxiety. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to try not eating with my iPad tonight.
Oh, it's an interesting experiment.
See if I can.
Yeah.
It'll be a hard
one.
one.
What happens.
Yeah. Okay. So this one is about going back in time because you were talking about your 7th grade self and how you were playing the guitar. Back then, specifically, is there a piece of advice you wish you could tell 7th grade you in front of that huge audience with a guitar?
That is a great question. I think the most important advice I would give my past self is you're already enough. You're already enough. You don't have to try so hard. It's interesting when I look back on my life, some of those pivotal moments that really shaped who I am now, going back and revisiting them, it was right around grade 7 again. I was in love with this girl at the time. I'm not going to mention her name, but there was this girl at the time that I was really into, and I actually used to record her songs on cassette tapes. And one day I got the courage to give her one at recess, and I gave her the cassette tape, and she threw it back in my face.
Oh,
and
no.
she was with her friends, and they started laughing at me.
Oh no.
And in that moment, I made the decision at the time without knowing it, I'm not enough. I need to like prove my worth so that I can have this girl like me. I think this is a very common thing.
Yes.
And so it was right around then too, I was learning how to play guitar, and I was getting all this attention by playing guitar. And I realized, oh, if I play my guitar, I'm going to be good enough. Or, oh, if I work really hard, I'm going to be good enough. But it never felt like it was enough. And so when I look back now, one of my greatest strengths is actually, being a high achiever. I'm like always trying to do more, be more, get more. I'm a performer. I love to like have a high standard for myself, which is fueled by that moment. But I also am really practicing right now exactly this question, going back to that younger version of myself and reminding myself, you're already enough. You can relax. It's going to be okay. You've already proved your worth.
I feel like we spend a lot of time thinking about what we did. Like you might get home and while you're waiting to fall asleep, you're thinking about everything, every decision that you made or everything that you said to someone else. Yeah. And we start overthinking that, right? We start overthinking situations and conversations and you're like, how could I have made that better?
Totally.
But I feel like there's not really a way to make it better because you can't go back in time.
You can't really go back in time. And you know what I found is that the moments that didn't feel like they were happening on time, like that moment with that girl in the 7th grade, it actually did happen on time when I look back now. It didn't feel good at the time.
No.
And I know when I look back now that she was probably also just really feeling uncomfortable about this boy that's into her. And so she was embarrassed and threw the tape back in my face. But when I look back at that moment now, I realize if that hadn't happened, I probably wouldn't have pursued the guitar and gotten good at it, or I wouldn't have tried so hard to be a high achiever. Like these things have actually been gifts for me. Even
they don't feel like it. They don't feel like pivotal moments.
They don't. But I think a lot of times, people that have been bullied, and I'm not condoning that at all. I mean, I have so much compassion for people that have been bullied in school, but a lot of times those moments can be pivotal in that they shape us into building the gifts within us. And for example, bringing out courage or strength or the ability to speak up for ourselves.
It's funny you say that because there was a girl who was really mean to me back when I first moved to Canada. And I mean, it kind of set a tone, like a bad tone. I was like thinking, oh, this place might not be the best, right? When I first moved, and I was only going into grade 2, so I was also really young. And like thinking back on it now, it's like it shaped me to be a lot more outgoing and standing up for what I believe in, because back then, like I remember she used to cover my mouth like whenever I spoke. She said, yeah, I used to not be able to speak because she didn't like it. So like now, you know, to help my younger self and to prove that, well, like you said, to prove that I'm enough, I speak out. And so I think that's definitely one of the things. And we don't see it with other people, right? You never would have guessed.
No.
I never would have guessed like that a lot of my friends might have been bullied in school, but a lot of the things that they do is just to prove their younger selves that they are enough.
Absolutely. I am so proud of you for having the courage to speak out, and like what you're doing even right now with this show, like to use your voice as a gift and to realize that you are enough. I think it comes down to that. Like you're already enough, no matter what anybody says.
No matter what.
You're enough.
Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of people need to hear nowadays, because we just think like, oh, I'm not enough. And with the internet especially, right? We're always just doom scrolling and looking at everybody and thinking, oh, I don't look like them. Oh, I don't act like them.
Absolutely.
I find myself doing that a bunch of times, and you have to stop yourself from doing that.
Yes.
Because everyone's life is different.
It really is. And one of my best friends, his name is Ned. He's in his 80s. He has so much wisdom, and he says, Keith, just be yourself because everybody else is already taken.
That's right? A really good quote.
I love it.
Yeah, you do got to be yourself.
It's true.
Can't be anyone else.
You can't.
You can't. Okay, so back to the questions.
Okay.
Were there any skills you had to develop early on that young people could start working on now? I mean, we did talk about like maybe mindfulness or maybe going back to the present moment. Is there any other skills? Wow,
great question. I think one of the most important things we can learn how to do is really listen and trust ourselves at the heart level. We're bombarded these days by a world full of noise and distraction. I mean, you were talking about doom scrolling. You know, anytime we get on Instagram or any of these platforms, we're marketed like how we're supposed to be, how we're supposed to look, what we're supposed to focus on. And I think with artificial intelligence, AI, I've come up with a new saying for AI. So instead of calling it artificial intelligence, why don't we call it authentic intelligence, meaning authenticity? How do we access the authentic part of who we are versus the outside world telling us how we should be? How do we learn to listen to our own self? And I think we have such busy brains that if we can focus our busy mind to the heart center, and if we really learn how to listen to our heart and trust that feeling in our heart, we're going to be a lot better off because we're going to be living very authentically. So when it comes to, like, for example, in this program, you're talking about how do you choose the career or the job that you're wanting, as opposed to like overthinking what your parents are telling you or what society's telling you. You know, there's those classical jobs that everybody thinks they're supposed to be in order to be successful. Why not slow down a little bit? Even place your hand on your heart and just ask yourself, like if your heart could speak, like ask it, what do you really want to create or do? Like, what's your real dream for yourself? And I think when we start listening to those inner kind of knowings, it's like that natural awareness that comes up, we're guided into what we're supposed to be doing in our lives. And we find a lot more fulfillment that way.
Definitely. I really like asking my friends a specific question. And it's, if money wasn't a thing, or if like money was never a worry, what job would you go into? And like, I ask myself that sometimes. And I mean, of course, I want to do like talk shows and radio and anything with broadcasting. But I think there's some like parts of you that has other jobs that you definitely want to try. So it's really cool that you can have 2 jobs. You can be a mindfulness coach and you can do music.
There are no limits.
No.
There are no limits. I think that if you can focus your attention on something that you want to create, if you're willing to make sacrifices, you can create it in some way. Now, not all of us have the skills to be at the levels that we want to be. So for example, let's say I wanted to make the NHL and I worked really hard, but I just didn't have that ability to be like a great skater. You can still find a career that matches that dream of being involved in the NHL. Maybe you're not like the star hockey player that's scoring all the goals. But I find life always gives us what we're asking for in some way that best matches what it is that we want to create. It's like this co-creation with our spirit. So what you're saying is exactly spot on, is that I don't think there are limits. And if you can dream it, you can create it.
Definitely, you can create it.
Absolutely.
I love that message.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to your path of career, like how you got into everything that you do. Because we did talk a little bit about that,
Yep.
but like more specifically.
Okay.
So how did your journey in mindfulness start? We did talk about that, but more specifically, how did music fit into that?
Oh, interesting. Well, it took me a while to realize that mindfulness and music are so connected. When I look back, my dad had this amazing tradition on Saturday mornings. He would go downstairs to our family basement, and he, speaking of vinyl, had this amazing vinyl collection. And he would choose an album off the shelf, and he'd study the artwork, and he'd sit on the couch, and he'd just listen to the whole album.
Wow.
It's like, that is such a rarity these days. Most of us, we get on like Spotify or iTunes, and every 30 seconds we're clicking to the next song.
That's me.
Yeah, me too.
I have a problem with skipping.
Me too. It's very hard to keep our attention on a 3-minute song, for example. But my dad would sit there and he would just listen to the whole song. And it was like this moment for him to just relax and sort of feel his emotions. And so when I was looking back at that, when I was designing a mindfulness workshop recently, and I realized mindfulness and music actually are very connected. When we slow down, which is a rarity in our society, when we slow down and we let a song speak to us, like we let the whole song speak to us, it's amazing in the present moment what a song can deliver in terms of messaging. You know, sometimes there's a feeling or emotion that comes up when we're listening to music. Sometimes there's like a lyric that you hear in the song, and you're like, I just needed to hear that right now. And sometimes music can bring us into our, what I call our unconscious mind, like our memory about a time or place. It's a very healing thing to really let a song speak to us deeper than our busy mind. I also think about when we're traveling through the world, everything is music in some form, you know. Some music's very busy and very loud, like a shopping mall of all sorts of people talking. It's like a form of music.
Yeah.
If you go into a church or a temple or, you know, a monastery somewhere, just silence, another form of music. So really getting clear in mindfulness about where am I focusing my attention and what am I listening to? I think those two things are very related. And so just from doing this for a while, I've realized that all along the way, music has actually been a form of mindfulness practice. I'm only becoming more aware of that now.
That's really cool. Yeah, I find myself like putting on certain songs that I was listening to in a specific time in my life. Like I have like a playlist that's like, oh, it reminds me of like the first days of school, you know, back in like grade 7 and 8. And they're all like kind of nostalgic songs that were popular at the time, or even going back to like the 2000s, you know. It wasn't that long time ago, but like, you know, back in the very early 2000s where we all used to watch Hannah Montana. So playing those songs are really nostalgic, and listening to them, it kind of brings up a memory of either your childhood or your early teenage lives. So it's really cool that music can be a part of mindfulness.
Is there a particular song that comes to mind for you that takes you right back to a good time in your life?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think it's honestly like Sugar by Maroon 5. I used to play the music video every single day on my TV back in Brazil. And it's the music video where he like crashes the wedding.
Oh, yeah.
And he like or he doesn't crash it. He gets invited, right, by someone in the wedding. And he plays that song to the different people and different couples at the wedding. And it's so cool. Like I remember seeing that when I was younger. And I guess I didn't really understand what was going on. And like looking back now, it's like I know what's going on. And it's so nostalgic just looking at it.
It's amazing, right? It takes you right back to that time in Brazil, a good moment in your life.
Yeah.
I feel like this is such a great strategy or practice, is to like think back to a time in your life where you were, you know, really uplifted or happy, and there might be a song involved, and just like playing that song can completely change your whole physiology in the present moment.
Yes.
So if you're having a bad day, put on a song that lifts your spirit or brings you into a time or place.
Exactly. Another thing is my friend started this like little tradition. Well, it's a tradition now, but back in grade 7, at the end of the year, she took all the pictures that she took in grade 7 and made like a little slideshow, and she put a song over it. You know, what I believe was like the song of like the school year that she believed to be the song of the school year. And she sent it to me, and I was like, wait, I have some pictures to add. And so I'd added pictures, and I added the song that I thought was like what I was listening to the most throughout the school year. And then she was in grade 8. She was like, I don't really want to do it. Like, I'm too lazy to put all the pictures together. So instead, I took over, and I put all the pictures together, and then I put a song over it. And it kept going. And she left after grade 8, but I kept doing that, and I kept that tradition alive. And every single year, especially like now, just in grade 10, I kept writing down the songs that I wanted to put over those pictures because they were like songs that reminded me of certain specific moments in that year.
What a great idea.
Yeah, and it was just a tradition that I keep going. Hopefully I get to do it next year too.
I love that. Well, the visual too, like pictures is another way. Like getting a picture, even in your imagination, about a good place. Like I often take clients or people that are in mindfulness retreats with me into what I call an inner journey, and just remembering a time or place visually that you were in, and really placing yourself in that scene can be such a way to shift your energy into a positive, peaceful place.
100%, definitely. Yeah. Going back through pictures is nostalgic, so.
Absolutely.
Now, doing that must be
that also, looking at pictures, now that you mention it, it's amazing that everything is in a constant state of change. That's another principle I think that's powerful when it comes to mindfulness, is realizing that we're not even the same people that entered into this TV studio earlier today. Like, we are constantly changing. Things are always moving forward. And I think that sometimes a lot of us can really struggle when we try to hold on or attach too tightly to what's always changing and moving. When I look at pictures of myself from even 10 years ago, I'm like, I'm not the same person that I was then. You know, my hair's thinning out. I've got more lines on my face. Like, I don't know, right? Like, if you want to prove to yourself that it's always in a state of change, look back at pictures.
Yeah, and that's why I love doing this, because you get to be inspired by different people. I mean, now I'm going to try to be a more mindful person. You know, now I'm going to remember every time I do those, like, that tradition of putting the songs and putting the pictures. I'm going to remember this conversation that we had.
That's wonderful.
And now you're going to be a different person. Yeah,
yeah,
definitely. Okay, let's talk about challenges now.
Okay.
Did you face any challenges starting out? Like people not taking you seriously because you were really young or you were new?
This is getting really heavy.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's been many times throughout my life and my career where, you know, I've had people that don't like what I'm doing. You can't please everybody.
No.
I've learned that along the way. You can't make everybody happy. And if you're trying to, you're going to fail miserably because some people have different tastes, or, you know, some people might not agree with what your messaging is. I've had people actually criticize me for being way too positive. I remember it's so crazy. I was walking down the street one day. I have this practice that developed many years ago. I send out every morning a positive quote. I had this meditation practice every morning, and I would get a download, I call it, where I would just have like a quote that would come through. And so I would put it out on social media, and it's called the daily intention. It's like a little positive quote for people. And I was walking down the street years later, and there was a person across the street, and they just yelled out at me. They're like, Keith, you're that guy that does the intentions. You're way too positive. And they were like almost criticizing the fact that I was like putting positive energy into the world. You can't please everybody.
You can't. Maybe they're the one that needs positive energy.
Well, exactly. It was just basically them trying to, I think, deflect their unhappiness. So, you know what I did? I just sent them love in my mind. It was like, love on that person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that kind of spread negativity, and that's what goes on a lot with social media, right? You hide behind the screen, or they can't really see you. You make up a new account where you don't have a profile picture that's you, and criticizing someone for being too positive. I never thought I'd hear that. That's crazy.
You know, negativity is so sticky and addictive. I've studied some of the Hawaiian culture. It's been a passion of mine. There's a whole lineage in Hawaii called Hunakani. It's really shaped my life, and it's very linked to mindfulness. And there's a saying in Hawaii, pilikia. And pilikia means trauma, drama, sticky troubles. And I think it's so true that when we get into these negative spirals, it's very like sticky, contagious energy. And people tend to like thrive on like talking about gossip or like talking negative to each other. And it becomes sort of amplified the more we do that. It gets very addictive energy. So a practice that I've come to is like no gossip. Like don't talk behind people's backs.
Funny you mentioned that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I had I think, I don't remember who it was, but they were talking about gossip maybe a few weeks ago. And they said it's like if you cut like a bunch of paper up into little tiny pieces of glitter, and you throw it up, and you take like a blow dryer maybe, and you like blow dry all those pieces, and it like spreads around. You know how it's hard to get glitter out of everything?
Yes.
You can't pick it back up, and that's what gossip is.
Oh,
Funny
wow.
you mentioned that, yeah.
Powerful. Well, I think like there's a great saying that my teacher, the Huna teacher, said to me. They said, that which you're fascinated by is fastened to you. That which you're fascinated by is fastened to you. So if I'm fascinated by the gossip and the drama and like talking behind people's backs, I'm going to get more of that. And not only is it like, I'm going to attract people that also like gossip, but most likely people are going to be gossiping about me too. It's a very, very amplified addictive energy. So I think that whole glitter thing is a great example of it. I think minimizing the gossip, I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, it's easy to get into these conversations of gossip, but I think when we give up gossip, our lives change for the better. Louise Hay, she said this, I gave up gossip and now I have nothing to say.
Whoa. That's kind of funny because we do talk about other people a lot, right? And we should be really focusing on ourselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and celebrating the people that we're with in the present moment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So another question is, were there any surprising opportunities that came your way because you put yourself out there? Like the one that you said about being a yoga coach and talking to those people, even if it didn't really help you know what mindfulness was.
Well, back in 2006, which might be like early on for you, I was on tour with my bandmate Renee. And it was the last weekend that you could audition for Canadian Idol, which was a TV show that was very popular.
Yes.
Kind of like The Voice now.
Yes, I remember who won one of the Canadian Idol ones.
Yeah. So back in 2006, I was on tour with Renee, and we got the word that we could go out for this audition. And I was turning 28 at the time, and I was like, it was my last chance to audition because apparently the TV station said after 28, you can't be on this show. You're no longer considered a rock star, I guess.
Whoa.
So I, on a whim, thought, you know what, I'm going to audition for this show. So I went out for an audition, and the next thing I knew, I made it into the top 100. And I was competing for this Canadian Idol spot. And then it got down to the top 22. And they flew me from Winnipeg, where I live here, to Toronto to compete. And this was when it started becoming like you'd sing a solo song on national television. So unexpected. I mean, I was just going out for this audition on a whim because I happened to be there. And one thing led to the next, and I made it all the way down to just before the top 10, which was amazing. But being on that show for me was such an unexpected thing at the time. Like I was not even, like I just happened to be in the time and place where the audition was happening.
That's insane.
And it moved me all the way forward into the finals of that show.
Look at that.
Funny thing that happened on that show, I made it in the top 22. I got to Toronto, and one of the first things they did when I got to the TV studio is they gave me tickets to hand out to my friends and family. But all my family lives here in Winnipeg, so I was like, what am I going to do with these tickets? So I went out on the street, speaking of unexpected, and I started handing out tickets in Toronto to people that might want to come to the studio to watch the show live. Well, little did I know, there I am on national television, I'm singing my song, and I look over at the monitor screen, and the camera has like panned over to this group of strangers that I gave tickets to on the street in Toronto, and the caption comes up, Keith's friends and family. I'm like, I don't even know these people, really. I mean, I met them on the street.
Yeah.
My mom's calling, like, who are these people? I'm like, they're not your family. I'm like, somehow we're all connected. But then this gets even crazier. So one of the people I gave a ticket to on the street in Toronto ended up being working for this NGO, this nonprofit group. And they became fans of my music, and they asked me if I'd be willing to travel over to Africa to do volunteer work.
Whoa.
Isn't that insane?
Look at that.
Yeah. So I ended up in Africa, actually, 2 summers in a row, working in this little area called the Masai Mara. We were building schools. We were working with the community, building schools and clean water projects. And it was just an amazing thing. And on the weekends, I would bring my guitar into this market, and I would jam with the people, the local people in Africa. And I'd be teaching them songs in English. They'd be teaching me songs in Swahili. And we'd have these like epic jam sessions.
That's crazy.
This all started from handing out a ticket on the street in Toronto.
No, actually, it started before that. you being there at the time of all the, what do you call it?
The audition?
The auditions, there you go. Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So then I'm jamming in the market in Africa, and this other guy comes up to me and he goes, I know this is a really weird request, but I'm really enjoying the music. And he said, would you be interested in flying to where I live from here and playing at a company party that I'm having next week? And I'm like, what? Sure. And I'm in Africa. I'm like, getting on a plane with a stranger might not be a good idea. But I thought, you know what, if I'm going to go, this would be a good way to go. So I got on the plane. I flew 5 hours away from Kenya to this place called Dubai.
Whoa.
And I didn't even know where this was. I knew nothing about Dubai. And if you don't know about Dubai, it's one of the wealthiest places in the world.
Yes.
And coming from Africa, where I was with people that were like bartering for used clothing and food going bad, and then flying 5 hours away to Dubai, where there was like brand new skyscrapers everywhere and all you could eat food.
Must have been like a shock, right?
It was a shock. And what I came to realize was that the music connected everything together. It didn't matter whether you were rich or poor, a different skin color, race, culture. I'd played the same songs in both places, and I had the same reaction from the people.
That's beautiful.
Singing, dancing, connecting. But back to your question, it's amazing when you trust that gut feeling,
And you
unexpectedly, things just start happening. And that's an example of that.
That's crazy. That's like crazy luck, Everyone is there at the same time.
I call it synchronicity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because everyone's kind of connected in a way.
Everything is connected.
Yeah.
And when we trust our gut instincts and we go for it, the universe, if you want to call it that, or spirit, is going to shape things in ways to help us continue to expand and grow and have these amazing experiences.
They say you're 7 connections away from a celebrity. So like your friend has a friend who has a cousin who has whatever, who's connected to this person.
Wow.
It's really funny.
They say you're 3 steps away from a bear most of the time in the woods too.
Oh, whoa.
Just made me think of that.
I think I like the celebrities one better.
I like that one better too.
Okay, so back to young people. A lot of people think you have to pick only one career. What would you say to that?
I would say absolutely not. I mean, if that's on your heart to pick one career, pick one career. But in my experience, I like the variety of life. So it really comes down to what are you passionate about? And I've kind of found through my lifetime having a variety of different options has really made it more interesting for me. I'm somebody that probably couldn't sit at a desk from 9 to 5 every day. I really like to have variety and unexpected things happening. So for me, I've carved out a career where it's, music, yoga, speaking, coaching, and they all seem to connect together.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Okay, I only have a few more questions for you.
Okay.
And then we'll wrap up.
Great.
So what do you hope the next generation will do differently when it comes to mindfulness and music?
Just that, hey? That's a big question. I hope that our next generation is going to find ways to really listen to each other deeper and connect to each other in ways of non-judgment, compassion, and understanding.
I hope so too.
I feel like we're in such a divided place right now. And it's just a dream that I hold for the next generation, that they'll be able to listen to each other and understand with just more deep compassion and awareness.
That's a really good one. And last question to end off. If a young person watching this feels lost about their career, what would you say to them?
I'd say you're never really lost. That's a story that your saboteur in your mind is telling you. And to come back into this present moment, take a few breaths, slow down, and really sit with, what do I want to create? It's a really important question. What do I want to create in my life? How do I want my life to go? You might even just journal a little bit on that, or even look at some pictures about, what do I want to create? And really trust the breadcrumbs, I call them, When you start getting clear on what is it that I really want to do, what would light me up? What would fulfill me the most? When you start getting clear on that and then acting like that's already happening, you'll start finding that all these little breadcrumb clues will start showing up. The right people start showing up. The right opportunities start showing up. So you never really are fully lost when it comes to figuring out what you want to do. I think that's a story that we tell ourselves. And like I said, to really slow down, go inward and listen, and ask yourself the question, what would really light me up and fulfill me? And then trusting those little clues that come up.
We will definitely put that into practice. Thank you, Keith, so much for coming onto the show.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. Thank you for having me here.
That's it for today's episode of On the Job. Thank you so much to Keith for sharing his wisdom on mindfulness and showing us how music and mindfulness together can bring more peace and connection into our lives. Be sure to join us for the next episode, where we'll continue uncovering inspiring career journeys and the lessons they hold for young people like you.